Hello everyone, welcome to MBA 651, Global Business and Cultural Diversity. I'm Mike Warren, and today I'll be discussing The Art of Crossing Cultures by Craig Stourti. Before we begin, let me share a couple of important points. First, Mr. Stourti is the founder of an intercultural communication training and consulting firm. He has authored several books on cross-cultural interactions and has been featured in prominent publications like the Washington Post, LA Times, and the Chicago Tribune. Second, regarding the book itself, I reviewed the second edition, which was published in 2011, and this version includes significant updates from the original edition released in 1990. Now I'd like to spend a moment on its purpose. The book cover and jacket hint that it's geared towards university students, business professionals, and travelers. Yet the author often mentions expats as a key audience, which I think misses a big opportunity, and that is including military members. As a 20-year-old Marine stationed in Hawaii, I deployed to Japan for 6 months, and I can honestly say this book would have been a tremendous help to me back then. Additionally, I believe the ideas shared in the book are not only helpful abroad, but also right here at home. Therefore, it's a resource that can truly benefit everyone. Next, I want to talk about what the book calls country shock. I've included language into this slide's title because it plays a huge role in many of these issues. When stepping into a new culture, one of the first things you notice is how daily routines get disrupted. While some folks might find this exciting, many people really don't like change, which leads to frustration. Some of these frustrations include missing your favorite foods, not being able to watch or play your favorite sports, or just driving from point A to point B. Another big aspect of country shock is the lack of familiar faces and the prevalence of unfamiliar ones. The first part's pretty obvious. You're going to miss your family and your friends. The second part is less clear, and that's where language comes in. Being around unfamiliar people can make one feel cautious and guarded, which can get tiring after a few hours, and keeping up heightened levels of awareness all day, every day, is exhausting. Plus, trying to communicate with people who speak a different language can be very frustrating, and not being able to connect with others for a long period of time can feel very isolating. Another thing to think about is the disruption of basic services. Living in America, we often take for granted the great infrastructures we have here. Other places aren't so lucky. Many areas deal with poor electrical grids leading to power outages, weak phone and cell services causing communication problems, and rough roads that create travel delays. Language again comes into play when you're trying to navigate these situations without being able to speak the local language. All these factors can build up frustration day by day. And speaking of rough roads, getting around in a foreign country can be very intimidating. From my own experience, driving on the wrong side of the road with the steering wheel on the opposite side of the car, shifting gears with my left hand instead of my right, all while trying to read road signs in a different language, made for some pretty frustrating trips when I was in Japan. Language was definitely a factor here as well. Between road maps and road signs in another language and not being able to stop and ask for directions, it's a miracle I made it anywhere. Finally, I want to touch on 2 issues related to country shock, both of which people often say are the number one concern when traveling abroad. The first is getting sick. Depending on where you go, the climate can be very different from what you're used to. Cold, damp places and hot, humid spots can put a real strain on your body, challenging your immune system. Being sick doesn't just affect your body, it messes with your mind too. Plus, finding medicine to treat what you have can be tricky. Again, language comes into play. Not being able to express your symptoms or find the right medicine can be incredibly frustrating. And we haven't even started talking about some of the bugs in certain developing countries. Finally, we need to address family. Studies show that the biggest reason many expats struggle with overseas opportunities is due to family issues. Whether it's spouses or kids, the families of expats bear just as much of the transition burden as the workers do, if not more. They have to uproot their lives and leave their comfort zones, often without the benefit of having a familiar job to go to every day. So, what should you do about all this? The good news is that there are steps you can take to lessen the challenges of being in a new environment. First, remember that knowledge is power. Recognizing the obstacles will come helps you prepare. Next, prioritize staying healthy. Eat nutritious food, get enough sleep, and exercise regularly. This might be a good opportunity to try different activities since you're not in your usual surroundings. Consider going for a walk, doing yard work, or cleaning the house. Any vigorous activity that gets your heart rate up is better than sitting in front of a TV or a computer. Additionally, get outside, leave the house or office, take a walk during lunch, and explore the area you might never visit again. Sightseeing and visiting local attractions can also help make the most of your situation. Finally, remember the big picture. Your current situation will not last forever. It's only a temporary phase in your life. Soon you'll be back in your comfort zone, so take advantage of the situation. In this section of the book, Storti explores the two different types of negative intercultural interactions. I'm going to begin with type 2 as I believe that one is a bit more difficult to control. In this type of interaction, the visitor, we'll call them, does something to offend the local population and someone takes offense. Now, this visitor didn't know they did something offensive, and they certainly didn't intend to offend anybody, but the bottom line is they did. In most cases, this is caused by a lack of preparation by the visitor. Had they taken the time to study the local customs, talk to recent or current residents, or run their actions by a local citizen beforehand, they may have been able to avoid such offenses. The second one, I believe, is easier to manage, although some may not agree, as all it takes is a degree of self-control. In this type of cultural interaction, the visitor reacts to the customs of the local population. Now, if we remember that we are visitors in a foreign land and take into account that their local customs trump our sense of priority, there should never be an issue. However, that's often not the case, and in the next slide, I'll discuss the reason. Ethnocentricity is the belief that most people think and act like we do, which, as anyone who's spent time in a foreign land can tell you, is not the case. You don't even need to travel to a different country to realize this. When I was stationed in Hawaii, I remember being shocked to see people regularly go into a business like a grocery store, a bar, or a restaurant without a shirt or even shoes on. Now, I'm from the land of no shirt, no shoes, no service, so this really threw me off guard. So why do you think people might believe that everyone thinks and acts the same way they do? There are a couple of important factors here. The first one is simple: cultural conditioning. People often believe this because that's how they've always experienced the world. Many of us grow up in environments filled with like-minded individuals who think and behave in similar ways. This creates cultural conditioning, where one generation teaches the next. This, in turn, shapes cultural norms, which are the ideas about what we consider right and wrong, or what is normal. Because of this cultural conditioning about right and wrong, it's only natural that people might think that anything outside of what's normal is wrong. So, now that we've identified the two different types of negative cultural interactions, as well as what causes them, we can get into solving the problem. And it's really quite simple, because it all hinges on us. The problem is not caused by what other people do, it's caused by what we expect them to do, and how we react to it, which, as you can see, is a me problem, not a you problem. As we've previously discussed, cultural conditioning has taught people, via cultural norms, that anything we deem not normal or different is wrong. Well, that simply isn't the case. Just because we don't see something as normal doesn't make it wrong, it just makes it different. So again, it all comes down to us. We hold the power to stop assuming everyone is like us and to stop expecting everyone to be like us. And this can go a long way towards preventing negative cultural interactions. Now, this is where it all starts to come together. The key to eliminating negative cultural interactions lies within each one of us. It all boils down to our expectations. All we need to do is expect locals to act like themselves and not some version of ourselves. That's it. And here's the way to do just that. It starts with a little bit of study. Before you visit a foreign land, take some time and study the local culture. Go to the library. Check out a book. Do some research online. Try to get a feel for what might be different before you arrive so that you're not thrown off guard once you get there. Next, talk to people who've been there. Learn from their mistakes. Having a few conversations about what has tripped others up in the past can save you the embarrassment of repeating their mistakes. And finally, once you arrive, look around. You're probably familiar with the saying, think before you speak. Well, in this case, look before you act. Notice how others behave in their natural environment before engaging with them. This can set realistic expectations for those interactions. Wrapping up, Storti offers some final advice. When you're in a different environment, you might encounter local customs that seem unfamiliar or strange. However, if you've done your research and spoken with people who've traveled there before, you'll feel more confident and less surprised by what you encounter. Additionally, letting go of ethnocentric views and allowing locals to be themselves will help you handle these situations gracefully. However, you still may face a few situations where you simply cannot accept the local custom. In these particular cases, it's essential that you stay true to your personal values. As long as you've made an effort to understand the custom before judging it, then you can feel comfortable if you still don't accept it. The key in these situations, and throughout your entire time abroad, is empathy. Effectively navigating unfamiliar environments isn't about abandoning your principles or becoming exactly like the locals. It's about trying to see and experience the world from their perspective, which in turn broadens your horizons and offers you a new understanding.